So hello, everybody. My name is Mark Sage, and I'm the Executive Director of the area, the Augmented Reality Enterprise Alliance. And I'm very excited to be with you at EWTS again. It's an amazing show. I've been lucky enough to meet people in person there. Obviously, this year will be online, but looking forward to hopefully in the future meeting friends and colleagues and experts and evangelists for the AR ecosystem. So just a reminder, the area, it's the only global membership-funded non-profit alliance dedicated to helping accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR. And we do that by supporting the growth of a comprehensive ecosystem. And today I've got a really interesting and some of the real experts in the industry talking about some of the work we're doing in the research committee. Many of you will know Christine Perey, and also we have Saverio Romeo, who will be talking a little bit later on 5G and AR, a recent area research project. We'll explain about the research projects shortly. I'm going to start with Christine, who has been the chair of the research committee and driven a lot of this work. We're going to be talking really about the highlights of our research committee work and some amazing work she's been doing with her team on looking at what's potentially the next research agenda for our ecosystem. So Christine, maybe you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you've been doing in the research committee.
Thank you, Mark. So welcome everybody. I'm Christine Perey. I'm the chair of the research committee, as Mark said. And over the past 4 years, the research committee has done many things, but we have managed to produce these research projects for area members. And they began through a process of identifying issues that members feel need to be addressed and are not being addressed outside of the area. And then preparing an analysis, performing research, preparing an analysis, and then giving us tools, actionable results that area members can use. As these tools mature and time goes on, we've been releasing them to the ecosystem. So you can find the first 3 of those on the area website, and then we'll gradually continue to release more over time. As Mark said, our most recent project was on the subject of 5G and enterprise AR, and we'll be hearing about that in a few minutes. Now, what I'm going to be sharing with you is a project that we did kind of building on top of the 8th research project. That research project was an exercise in compiling the peer-reviewed literature about enterprise augmented reality using some widely known and published indexes. And once we had a database of 5,300 publications that were journal articles and conference proceedings, we began to work and to filter that information using machine learning and natural language processing. And then we developed what we call the Enterprise AR Research Agenda. So I'll be telling you more about that. The goal here is for the Enterprise AR Research Agenda to help stakeholders in research, and those include what you see on the screen here, people who are in research organizations themselves, or who might be in other ways supporting financially or logistically or strategically the research organizations and individual researchers. So we have created this research agenda through a process that you see on your screen here. As I said, we took this well-known index of IEEE and ACM publications and conference proceedings, queried it, created a unified data set. We did that in part by removing articles that were not relevant to enterprise AR and to the area, and then rerunning the algorithms until we were sure that we had enterprise AR publications. Once we had those, or in parallel, we examined their relevance, and we grouped the different publications in categories. Finally, we found gaps, and we created research topics based on the gaps. So this is to show you that of the 5,300 publications published over a 4-year period, the vast majority of them fit into the technology category. And these are the other categories on the left-hand side of the screen, as you can see, where the research publications fell. And not surprisingly, we found gaps even in the technology category, and we wrote research topic descriptions for those gaps. But we also identified areas that could definitely use more attention in the end user experience, certain vertical industries that are important to area members, and as you can see, other topics such as displays, use cases, and standards. Then we took these research topics, which we had developed their descriptions in a template, and we published them on the area website. We also developed an interactive interface that permits you to sort and search the different topics according to keywords or categories or the time frame when the impact from this research is expected. So in summary, we did have quite a few topics. We published this all on the web, on the area website, and we really want others to review it, to visit it, and to over time add to it. So we think of the research agenda as a living resource for those stakeholders I mentioned earlier. We also have made this 100% public so that anyone can go there. It is, as I described, a very quantitative, objective methodology that we use. We've published the methodology as well, and then provided this interactive dashboard for you to be able to filter, search by different categories, similarity, time frame, and so forth. So we hope that you'll find that very useful and contribute in the future, and hopefully find research topics that we've identified that are near and dear to your heart and within the scope of your company or your research institute. So Mark, that's a quick overview about the research agenda. Do you have any questions, or do you want to discuss this further?
Please, yeah. So I'm going to go back to the very start and talk about the area kind of research projects. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the kind of process that we go through and the type of research projects, not in detail, but to me, what I've seen are they're very applied research, things that companies can actually use on a day-to-day basis. Can you kind of comment a little bit on that?
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to make it clear, actually, that the area is not itself going to be taking on the research topics in the enterprise AR research agenda, because many of these are really broad topics. They require a subject matter expertise. We don't have the budget, we don't command that expertise, and we don't have the budget to hire that expertise. So the research topics that we've identified in this gap analysis tend to be broad, tend to be deep, tend to be big, hairy projects that are orphans or forgotten. Now, going back to your question about projects we have done in the research committee, those are very much right here. They are very much practical. They can have also a strategic component. So we are looking at what the problems are today. For example, measuring return on investment is a problem that everybody has. Security and others are close-in problems, but there are other strategic topics such as the role of IoT and artificial intelligence in the use of augmented reality. And that's another project that Saverio performed under contract with the area. The web-based AR is also something that is not commonplace in enterprises today, but we are very, very confident will be commonplace in enterprise systems in the future. So, and then the 5G and AR roadmap is again a strategic topic. Companies and the area need to be preparing for that day when 5G is available broadly and will be supporting the development, accelerating the development of the use of AR. So it's a mix, really.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. I guess I want to focus a little bit on the EWTS research project and the tool we've called Find AR, the kind of search engine. I've been lucky enough, or the first thing I should say to everybody, it's currently a area member benefit. So people can only access it if they are area members. But I've had some great fun and a very kind of a knowledgeable time looking at the tool. The interaction and how you kind of search things have been excellent. But I also particularly like the way that it suggests similar topics and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about the thoughts and methodology about that, but also some of the benefits that you see?
Right, and the methods is what we have here on the slide that I'm showing. And I think one of the richness in both the Find AR tool and the Enterprise AR research agenda is that they're not really reports, they're not products that are linear in nature. They are really tools for our community. In the case of Find AR, we are using these 5,300 published articles in the peer review literature over a 4-year period, and we'll continue to add to this maybe a couple of times a year. And I think it's really important to see these as it's not material that has been developed or designed for the purpose of promoting a particular product or service. They are designed for the purpose of sharing with everyone the results of engineering or other related types of research. So the Find AR database is really rich, and then once we can use it, it's a building block on which we can create other resources, and our members can also use it to find gaps they may not know exist quite yet, that we didn't find.
Yeah, so kind of in summary, really, there's no sort of marketing material or promotional. This is proper academic engineering research that really, answers or tries to answer real problems in the industry or, research in the industry. Right.
I think, there's a lot of value in marketing material. I don't want to make it seem like that's not important. And that's why we really drill down and we want to emphasize the sources of this work. It's not that the marketing is negative. It's that you must know what you're working with when you're beginning to look for opportunities, business opportunities. And in this case, it is peer reviewed. And I think people can understand the value of having peers review a particular publication or conference presentation. The other thing is that the articles tend to have a lot of description about the methods that a researcher has used to address or answer a particular topic. And that's also valuable in and of itself, to be able to repeat findings from published literature. You need to be able to follow the methods. And also we can learn about the methods that are used in let's just call it objective research, and adapt those for proprietary and commercial research projects. So I think there's a lot of value just looking at the methods, in addition to, on top of, looking at the results that are published.
That's great. Thank you, Christine. And kind of finally, you talked about the research agenda, the work that I know you and the kind of team have been very passionate about. And I've been fantastic to read all of the different potential research projects that can really help us push forward the industry. Maybe just kind of a little bit more detail on that in terms of your kind of thought process, but also where you hope and maybe reach out to the rest of the ecosystem so we can actually get potentially some of these research projects, you know, funded or worked on, or interested parties can work on it.
Okay, so indeed, it's an exercise, but if nobody knows about it, it's not very valuable. So we definitely are reaching out to national research organization, international funding and research leadership. Those are associations, could be industry associations, could be advocacy, could be some legislative groups that will influence how research is prioritized in the future. So I think it's one thing to identify the gaps, but it's another, and our work, what we're doing now is making sure that people understand why it's important to area members and how they can begin to crack open these fields and these barriers and address gaps and barriers to adoption. So the outreach is not only in our area community using our own lists, but very much reaching into the broader ecosystem, such as EWTS and the reputed attendees and speakers, and also going to, like I said, national and international funding organizations and venture capitalists, other people who have resources that could be applied in these areas.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you, Christine. And that's a great point that, you know, we've shared this. This is available on the area website. You know, we all strongly believe that the more research and information, and it's applied research, you know, it is about real challenges that we see in the ecosystem. So if anybody is interested or want to find out a little bit more, they can certainly contact myself, mark@thearea.org, or Christine, just reach out to us through the area website. But, you know, we hope and believe it's a great opportunity for the ecosystem to grow, you know, and to overcome those barriers to adoption, which is one of the main goals why the area was created and continues to do its work. So the second half of our talk today is maybe diving into a little bit more detail of one of the latest research projects, the 9th research project. So remembering that we've been doing research projects since the late 2016. And I'm excited to introduce or welcome Saverio. Saverio has been a huge friend and supporter of the area. This is actually his second research project. But Saverio, would like to introduce yourself and maybe give a quick introduction of your topic.
Yes. So first of all, thank you, Mark and Christine, for inviting me here. Thank you to the EWTS team for organizing all these. My name is Saverio Romeo. I divide my life between academia and consultancy activities. I'm coming primarily from a telecom IoT background. In the university, I'm leading a group, it's a mixed group between management school and computer science and some externals like me on how organization, public and private, are dealing or should deal with emerging technologies. So all the area topics, so the AR, and not only because as you saw from the previous presentation, yes, area is an AR for enterprise organization, but inevitably goes in many places. And together, actually, with area, we have been in quite a few places already. As you saw from the slides, I work with them on the IoT, AI, AR convergence. And this time, they asked me to look at the role of 5G. What 5G means for the augmented reality community worldwide, and primarily for the area members. I have to say that working with area is very exciting and challenging because they always look for the actionable side of it. As a researcher, primarily as an academic one, you tend to lose yourself into the details, but then they keep you in track. Okay, tell me what to do. This afternoon, I will just share a couple of ideas, insights that have come out of this research. And my first insights, my first insights is really to highlight the importance of engagement and collaboration within the AR community and the importance of knowledge of the AR community around emerging digital technologies. In this case, we were talking about 5G, and our work was really to identify the potential of 5G for AR, but also to identify a bit when this potential will be available for the area and for the AR community, and how. So rather than going straight, okay, I'll tell you what to do, instead we started with a survey with the area community, and we asked them their understanding of 5G. They tried to address what was their role at the moment in the 5G world. And you find a community that is keen to learn, is also very keen to operate already. You see here a couple of answers to some questions, 2 questions on the survey. So you have companies in the AR community which are working on projects, different level of projects, in a sense that could be simply an interest into the 5G, and therefore let's assess a bit what the 5G means for us, to something that is very close to proof of concept on 5G based consortium. So first of all, is a community that wants to engage, and we have engaged a lot with them. And the next step was, okay, starting from this level of understanding, which is, I would say, was not bad, in some cases was quite profound, we try to tell them, first of all, what 5G is, which are the benefits that take to AR, and primarily the benefits that take to AR, the one that at the moment you can perceive is the one of performance. So it's the one about the speed of the data, the bandwidth, the famous latency, that basically open all a number of applications in AR for enterprise that maybe before we couldn't really do, or we could do, but with a level of sophistication that we could have with 5G. So what we did? We obviously looked at enterprise as our core focus, and we look first of all at what 5G means for enterprises. And when we look at that, at the moment, we are really looking what 5G means in an Industry 4.0 framework. So what 5G means primarily in a manufacturing environment. And in fact, we collected a number of case studies. With case studies, we are talking about either a proof of concept or testing phases of projects. In some cases, very rarely, some sort of commercial deployments. These projects were projects in which 5G is basically the connectivity enabler of a number of applications in an enterprise environment. The large majority of them are at the moment in what we called with a big term was manufacturing and a lot of logistics, supply chain logistics. As you can see in the charts there, you see the 69% of the projects we identify is around manufacturing. On the other side of this slide, the question was, okay, how the 5G is used? Because if you are not, you do not have sufficient knowledge in 5G, 5G at the moment can be deployed in a variety of ways. Can be a 5G standalone network, so in a public way. It could be also the one that is called private networks, or there is another term that is campus network. Now, the idea of the private networks is the idea that you as an organization and manufacturer is able to have basically its own 5G network, and in this 5G network, the organization can develop all a number of applications. We find out in our research that you can see also from the charts that the large majority of the application of 5G in enterprise today is running on private networks. What we look then we look, okay, let's see among this database of case studies that, between brackets, is available to the area members, so is a source of knowledge for the area members, so for the area members, and this database is quite rich, describes the type of applications, describe what type of technology are used, described also the players involved. Most of the time, if not in all the case studies, we are talking about a consortium of players, and I'll go back to that because it's an important step. Within these projects in the database, we identify 48 of them that are using augmented realities. And you can see from the slides that the main use is about remote operation, remote maintenance, remote control, remote workers, classical application of the AR, but that with 5G, you can sophisticate a different level in terms of workflow interaction, in terms of graphics, in terms also of analytics that maybe you can do at the edge near an AR device. And again, on the other side, you see where these AR use cases are. These AR use cases are primarily in 5G private networks, in 5G private networks deployment. One note is important to do at the moment, that deploying a private network is expensive. Yeah, so the private networks at the moment is maybe more a matter for large enterprises, or for the enterprises more on the cutting edge of the innovation journey. So coming into that. The alternative to that is the use of consortium. Consortium are different players coming together to basically experiment the use of 5G, and with this that experimentation, they have different use cases to develop. Yeah, so for example, the most important one that enterprises are looking at is, let's see what we can do with artificial intelligence in a 5G private network. Then we have other type of application use cases, and then we have the AR use cases. The point is that in enterprises today, it's very rare to find a 5G deployments or a 5G proof of concept in which is exclusively dedicated to the AR. No, is a 5G deployment which is dedicated to the digital transformation of the manufacturer, of the companies, within which the AR plays an important role. And here I want to highlight and stress an important message to the AR community, which I did with Mark and Christine, but this is also the opportunity to do it again. In an Industry 4.0 context, which is the one we are playing today, you shouldn't look for an exclusive AR use cases. It's not Industry 4.0 that. Industry 4.0 is a collection, or is a convergence, if you want, of different type of technologies that enable the digital transformation of the manufacturers, in which augmented reality plays an important role. So the community needs to frame and phrase the message around that. I'm participating to the digital transformation of manufacturing companies, because through AR I can bring specific benefits. And you know well where the benefits are of AR in enterprises. You don't need me or anyone else to tell you. But what I come out from this research, but also from the previous one I did with Area, that in the AR community sometimes there is a bit of shyness. Yeah, there is that element that kind of there is almost the condition that the other people are saying that AR is just something for entertainment, therefore I'm not going to tell all the stuff I want to tell. So, and sorry if I'm very, very basic in the way I'm saying, but instead, we are all aware on the power of AR in digital transformation for enterprises and the role that it can have, and therefore the community in its entirety should push that at the same level as the artificial intelligence community is pushing their beat, the IoT is pushing their beat, because it's part of the digital transformation or Industry 4.0 framework. With 5G, this, I would like to stress this even more, because 5G gives you that potential in technological terms, in terms of performance, that enables you to do stuff that at the moment maybe we have read only in academic papers, on peer review papers, as Christine said. Today you can actually develop the level of graphics you want. You can create the streaming type of applications. You can not just do the workflow, you can even do the analytics on it. So is the moment for the AR community to really push the position of AR within Industry 4.0 that the AR deserves. With that, really, I want to. The other things I want to say that within this picture that you see on this slide, obviously you cannot do this thing on your own, and this is one thing we have discussed in our paper with Mark and Christine and with the area members. You need to do this in an ecosystem manner. It's not that you go to the manufacturer, you are the AR software developer or the hardware device manufacturers, and you go there and you give your product and that's it. Because it's a multidisciplinary process, because Industry 4.0 requires different type of technologies, because you need to pull yourself on top of an IoT platform and so on and so on, the ecosystem building is an important part of this story. Therefore, we have discussed which are the preferable partnership for AR companies in this story. The mobile network operators could be an option, and you have very interesting mobile network operators really pushing towards 5G for enterprise, and also specifically for a role of AR. You can work directly with manufacturers that are experimenting on these. There are system integrators in Industry 4.0 that are working on these. And maybe you need to work with all of them at the same time on a specific project. And you see this consortium, when you look at this consortium of proof of concept, you see all of them with some actors from the AR. So it's important to cultivate that. The other message I want to say, and then I stop, is we need to educate enterprise at the value of AR. This is something that is not solved yet. Yeah, we still have the perception that augmented reality is just gaming. I'm sorry to say, but it's not like that. And we need to educate the enterprise, from small, medium enterprises to the large enterprise, that AR is something else. And the benefits that AR can bring on the operational processes in the industry, on the worker safety and so on, are substantial. And with 5G, this substantial become even more. So the educational part of this community is extremely important, starting from university, if not from secondary school, going up to the workforce and the management boards in big organizations. I know it's a big ask, but it's an important thing to do. And maybe the use of champions can help. And in this community, there are a lot of big companies that are very interested and very pushing on their story. So I want to close with this, and also was saying that this was a very interesting project again with area. Is always a pleasure. And the project also involves some actionable tools that are dedicated to the area, and the actionable tool is really inviting the AR player to understand itself in relation to 5G. And to see what to do next. Yeah, this is the idea of the actionable tool. And with that, maybe I stop, Mark. We can have a chat.
Saverio, yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you, as always, for your passion and insights into the subject. Just a few kind of comments with me, mainly agreeing with you. the return on investment is something that's super important when it comes to being able to justify all sorts of investment in AR. As you well know, and hopefully the listeners know, the area has made available its ROI calculator. As AR ROI calculator. So you can go to the area website and do a search on ROI calculator. Please use it. Any feedback you want to give is welcome. But it's really important that we start to have data points within the industry so we can start to say, hey, in this industry, this use case we're seeing between an X and a Y ROI, because that brings a real kind of benefit and understanding. So that's the first thing. I've been lucky enough to read, again, just to remind the listeners and the attendees that this is one of the kind of area research projects, 5G and AR, which is made available to the area members. They'll be getting this report, multiple reports very, very soon. And the thing I really learned, or one of the many things I really learned, I should say, was that actually 5G is a combination of all sorts of different things. You showed the graph there, there's the kind of private networks, but there's numerous different ways that people can utilize and benefit from 5G. It's not just a faster pipe. So I think that's something very interesting and something we want to continue to push as well. So there's a couple of things. And the other point that you made, and this slide kind of says to it, and one of the things I think the area members get a little bit fed up with me saying is that really we're about solving business problems. Okay, it's not AR for the sake of AR. We need to be solving that business problem. So we've done lots of work on the use cases, helping to define them. So business leaders can come along and say, oh, I look at these use cases. Yes, I have that problem. Okay, AR is one of the tools, maybe. It may be the only tool, but it's more likely one of the many tools I can use to solve this problem, to create efficiencies and improved in performance of my organization. So I think that's a really important piece. Christine, did you want to just comment on that?
Yeah. What I wanted to say, though, is that I think people understand that the potential of 5G is to be highly disruptive, and it's going to be important for many use cases broadly. I mean, I think it's really underscored in the research that we finished, that it's where 5G will be available, it's going to have enormous impact, and where it's available is going to be, I think, heavily in those manufacturing environments. So it's almost shall I say, it's difficult to imagine that 5G is going to be out on a drilling rig in the ocean or in a pipeline, across very, very low populated areas. But in areas that are very densely used, or where there's a lot of infrastructure that's connected. And one of the things that I really appreciated from the work that was done is the interconnection between 5G and the Internet of Things and connected machines. And AR, once again, is the visualization of information in those environments. So it's really a foundational element. And I like the word that's on this slide, convergence. It's simply what we're looking at is putting the foot on the gas so that AR will be easier to deploy and to bring to many more use cases. But there aren't any 5G devices for augmented reality users at this time. So of course, people have to use this as maybe inspiration and to figure out where they're going to invest their resources.
Yeah, can I just add one thing, Mark? And then I think it's also important to give a message to the AR community that at the moment, the 5G, we are mainly in the consumer space. Yeah, our mobile device, our 5G smartphone as a consumer. So there is a process, a journey that is happening at standardization level, but also primarily at investment level for enabling then the 5G in enterprises, and on enable also, for example, the development of 5G based enable AR devices. So the invitation that also we do in this study is to enter this phase, because entering this phase in consortium or in project with university, or there are a number of investments worldwide on this, is important for the AR community to get into it and to roll it and to understand it practically and effectively. Yeah. So.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you, Saverio. I think, again, I've took a lot of interest in the different use cases. I think it's also interesting, and again, perhaps for a conversation in the future, where those use cases are happening around the globe. You know, some of them are in different kind of regions and stuff like that. That's very important. But the other thing I think that I believe 5G will enable is the next set of use cases. You know, we have, and unfortunately because of the pandemic and COVID and stuff like that, things like remote assistance has exploded. But like you say here, remote operations, digital twin, it starts to bring us to those more complex problems, but when they're solved, the kind of the value that they create, the return on investment are amazing. So
yeah,
it's very, I can't thank you enough, and thank you, Christine, for your insights. I hope that everybody who's been listening have found that really interesting. The area continues to kind of push forward with our members and trying to help the ecosystem. And again, we're all there to try and help companies successfully deploy this technology. Any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. As I mentioned earlier, my email is mark@thearea.org. And I guess thank you very much for listening. It's Saverio and Christine, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
And thank you to EWTS for having us.
Oh, indeed, always. Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.